We're in gear, foot off the brake. Things should be spinning. So, let's see. Front tire. Rear hub spinning. Oh, that drum is about to come off. We'll leave it off for now. Let's see over here. Oh, that one's about to come off too. Whoops. Well, that stopped it. There we go. Just needed a few more kicks. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today I have the Escape back in the garage. Last time this was in here, I replaced the transmission with a 4-wheel drive capable transmission and installed a transfer case, but there's nothing in the rear end for it to drive yet. There's no rear differential, no drive axles. So today I'm going to be pulling the rear end of the car apart, and I have on the bench here my differential that I let's see, replace some seals on it. I've got the cover off right now, changing the fluid, and I'll put a new gasket on that. And of course I got the spray paint out and painted a couple of things here. This is the cover for the differential. These are a couple of the brackets for the subframe. So I'm going to get that back together, then get the car up on jacks and pull the rear end apart and start working on transferring some parts in. So let's get going on that. Alright, so I got a control arm out over here, and it's getting warmer in the garage and I'm working, so I'm losing layers here. But I got the control arm out on both sides, so you can see, basically right across now. Still have the shocks sitting in there, and I left the wheel cylinders on the brake hoses just so I wouldn't have all my brake fluid dripping out while this is apart. And actually the bolts broke off this wheel cylinder, so I have to replace that, but that's okay. In fact, maybe the wheel cylinder I got from the donor vehicle will fit here. We'll see. So I also dropped the subframe out. That would normally be right in there. And you know, you might ask, like, why do you have to drop the subframe out? Why can't you just bolt the differential into the existing subframe? So let me show you that. And I have both subframes here. This is the one that just came out of my Escape, and I pulled all the arms off of it except for this one bolt is stuck. So even with my big impact wrench, it won't budge. Which is a shame because it's actually a pretty good control arm. The ball joint is in good shape on that. So maybe I'll work on it. We'll see if I have another arm. And then this is the subframe from the donor vehicle. And you can see here are the same spots that those arms bolt to, and there's a couple extra spots here that the differential will bolt to. And on this subframe, you have those same holes in the subframe, but on the back side of it, there's no nuts. So there should be, here are the nuts, kind of like a weld nut that hold those arms on. There should be one here too for the differential. This one here, you can see, has that extra nut for the differential. And you know, it's not such a big deal. You could just put a nut on there if you really wanted to, and bolt the differential too. But the real difference is this extra mount here that the rear of the differential will bolt to. So on this one, you have that extra arm, and on this one, you can see where it would go, but there's no extra arm there. Here's the arm, here's no arm, and no nut, no nut. So, you know, if you really wanted to, you could probably make this work and, you know, weld some kind of a bracket on here, put some nuts on the back side. But when you're at the point of already pulling out the differential and the axle shafts and all of that from a donor vehicle, you might as well scrub the subframe. Alright, so it's a couple days later here, and I'm making progress again. I have the rear diff mounted up to the subframe. So this is a Dana 28, which came in the escapes. And this is a active torque coupling from a pretty new escape. I think this is out of the 2010 or 11. But it's this differential unit is bolted to the subframe, which is a direct swap in for this front wheel drive subframe that I pulled out of my escape. And tonight, this evening, I'm going to be working on taking these hubs out that you cannot put an axle shaft into, and replacing these hubs and the wheel bearing in the knuckle here with parts that will take axles. Then everything can basically go back together at that point and slap a drive shaft in here. So I've got one of these steering knuckles on my bench here, and what I want to do is replace this hub, which is for front wheel drive. You can see on the back it's got just a nut that holds on a tone ring for the ABS. On rear wheel drive or all wheel drive cars, this tone ring is part of the rear axle. And the hub, it just has basically a hollow shaft going through. Let's see here. Here's one of my all-wheel drive hubs. So it's splined for an axle shaft. That's going to replace this piece. So all that I really need to do here is take this nut off the back. I'm not sure if this hub is pressed in or if it's really just held in with that nut. But either way, I may need to use a hammer to knock that out of there. Then once the hub is out, there's a wheel bearing in here. That's what lets the hub spin freely. So I'm going to have to take a snap ring out of here, and then go to the hydraulic press and press that wheel bearing out. So I'll probably take this backing plate off once I get the hub removed for the sake of replacing the wheel bearing, then put the backing plate back on and put this hub in there. Now also, this would be a good time to replace your bushings in the control arm. In my case, I just put these bushings in about 6 months ago. So I've got another video up on YouTube from a while back this past fall putting those bushings in. You know, maybe check that out, because I really had to fight those bushings to get them out of the car and had to get creative on removing them from the control arm. But those are pretty new. I'm not going to replace that. But let's go ahead and get this hub and wheel bearing apart here to replace those pieces. Alright everyone, on tonight's episode of Eric Makes His Own Dangerous Adapters for the Press, I am looking for something that, so this is the wheel bearing that came out. I need something that can fit on the outer edge of this, and you can see that's a really small area. It's only like less than 1/8 of an inch on this very outer edge. I need something that sits on that edge but isn't wider than that, because I need to push this into the housing. So if it's wider, the whatever adapter I use won't fit in the housing, so it can't push this in the housing. And if it's too narrow, then it's going to push on the seal or this inner race, and I don't want that either. It has to push on the outer race so I don't damage the new bearing that I'm pressing in. So I've got some, you know, like ball joint press adapters, but this is too big. If you see on the bearing, let's see here, maybe it's a little hard to see, but it's a little bit wider than the bearing. It's actually going to rub on the outer housing here. You can see it doesn't actually fit in there. And all my other adapters are either too small or too big. So I came up with a genius idea where I have my wire wheel, and these wheels, as you know, are cutting metal, the wheel wears away and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So you can see here that this wheel, let's see, flip this over, move it, oh, cripes. So this wheel is too big to fit in there. But I've got another one that is worn down because I've used it, and it'll flop right in there, no problem. It's just about the right size, maybe a little bit too small. And I've got another one here that I wore down a little bit, and it fits in there. You know, a little bit tighter, but it fits in there. So what I'm doing is taking a bunch of my cutoff wheels and just wearing them down a little bit so that they fit inside of this hub. So then basically what I'll do is I'll take my, so let's see here, I've got my new bearing here. So I'm going to press that into the hub. Then once it gets like flush with the hub, it still needs to go in about a 1/4 inch further. So I'll stack some of these cutoff wheels on top of it. I need to wear a few more down, and then put the old bearing on top of that so I can transfer energy from this outer edge through those cutoff wheels to the outer edge of the new bearing and push it in the last little bit that it needs to go. So don't do this. And after I'm done doing this, I am not using these cutoff wheels on the cutoff wheel anymore. And you know, let's be honest, they're probably going in the press adapter box, but they're not safe to use as cutoff wheels anymore. But I think that they'll get the job done that I need to do here today. We're making some solid progress here, and I have on my, this is actually a transmission jack, I have the all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive subframe and rear differential there on the jack. Looking underneath the car here, it's got the spare tire in place, and that's kind of a pain to lower. It's probably never been lowered on my car before here. So I'm going to wheel this jack over here and try to go in sideways to mount up that subframe. Then once I get that mounted in, I've got the, I guess these are like control arms, you could call them. Between the old suspension, the new suspension, I had 4 good arms, and each of these arms is unique. There's a right hand upper, right hand lower, left hand lower, left hand upper. And between the 2 suspensions, I had the 4 correct control arms, all in good condition. I had a lot of control arms in bad condition, so I'm lucky that I've got you know, enough of the right good ones. So anyhow, let's get the subframe lifted up into the car and bolted in. Then we can bolt these control arms to it. Then these trailing arms with the new wheel bearings and 4-wheel drive hubs can go in as well. So let's get that together. All right, well, this is exciting time here. Let me show you what we've just done. So you can see up here from previous videos, up there and about the middle of the screen is the transfer case output. If I come over here a little bit, you can see better. It's just past that muffler catalytic converter. Transfer case output. And then back here, there's where you see a couple of studs where the center bearing for the drive shaft will mount. And back here is a rear differential where the drive shaft will also mount. So we've got some more work to do here with putting the control arms and trailing arms back on, but we've got a differential in the car. So that is a huge move, a major milestone, and something that I'm very excited about. So in a little while here we'll have some more pieces together and it's going to start to look like a car again, and shortly after that it's going to be a four-wheel drive car. So let's get the rest back together here. So making some solid progress here and almost have this back together now. You can see I've got the brakes back on. Of course the suspension is back in. Looking underneath here, the differential is in, the red piece there. But more importantly, here's an axle shaft. Over on the other side you can see an axle shaft. So you got lower control arm, axle shaft, then upper control arm. And underneath in here, you can see in the middle of the car is the drive shaft going up to the transfer case. So everything is in place now where this car actually is four-wheel drive. Very close. At this point, let's see here. Everything really is back in here. I just gotta throw the tires on. So I'm gonna actually jack the front of the car up, get the front tires off the ground, so I can basically put this in gear and see all the hubs spinning. So let's get this jacked up, watch all the hubs spin, make sure that they spin, and then get this back together and we can take it on the streets. So close and so exciting here. Well, so this is the moment of truth here. I have the front tires lifted just a little bit off the ground so I can spin them. And I am about to start the Escape here. Kind of a tight fit over here with everything else that's piled up in my garage. But I am just about to start the Escape and put it into gear. And I want to see all four tires, although on the rear I don't have tires, it'll just be the hubs, but I want to see all four corners spinning, because that's really what this is all about. So let's see here, gonna start it up. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks, it's cranking a little weak. Let's see, hold the brake here and put it into gear. We're in gear, foot off the brake. Things should be spinning. So, let's see. Front tire. Rear hub spinning. Oh, that drum is about to come off. We'll leave it off for now. Let's see over here. Oh, that one's about to come off too. Whoops. Well, that stopped it. There we go. Just needed a few more kicks. And then the front tire here. Yeah, it wants to spin the other side. You know, without a limited slip diff, it'll spin whichever one's easiest. So that one's spinning away. Rear hub back there, spinning away. Brake drum fell off. This one's spinning away. So at this point, we truly have four-wheel drive. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm gonna put the wheels and tires back on and take this thing out for a drive, make sure it doesn't vibrate or anything. So let's get it back together and get on the street. All right, everyone. Well, we are driving on the highway here. Let's see, highway speed 75 approximately, and this car is riding pretty good. So it's an old car. It's got no more vibration than it had before, and it's four-wheel drive and running good, driving good. So I think that this is ready, just about ready to go off-road. I have a couple of things to do yet. One of them is that I need to wire 12 volts on a switch to the rear diff to basically lock it in. Right now it has a viscous clutch on the rear diff, so it slips. It's made to slip, and I don't have the computer in the car that controls how much slip there is. So I'm basically going to have viscous clutch with the loosest amount of slip, but then wire 12 volts on a switch to the rear diff to essentially lock it in fully when I'm off-roading in the mud. So I gotta go to the junkyard to get the connector for the diff, and then wire 12 volts to that. And also my air conditioning compressor pulley is pretty worn out. That might be because I got mud in it last time I was off-roading. So I gotta grab a new air conditioning compressor, and at that point I think that everything will be good and ready to go off-road. Eventually here I'll probably put some larger tires on it, but I'm really curious to see how it does with stock size tires off-road, so we'll try that first. But thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and leave me a comment. What should I name this car? I'm really kind of thinking Mudscape. But let me know what you think I should name it. If you have an idea, something I should try with the car, something to do with the car, leave a comment, let me know. But thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.